All right.
Welcome to Clever Orbits on the Matrix Resurrections.
Clever Orbits Resurrected.
We're going back to where it all started.
We're going back to the Matrix.
Yeah, actually it did. But we had to resurrect the actual episode. I'm here, Louis Brandmeier, with Richard Futrell, Doctor of Psycholinguistics, back from the desert of the real in the future where psycholinguistics has been apparently outlawed by replicants.
Yeah, they call it the desert of the real.
The dessert of the real.
Yeah, because it tastes good. And they shove a lot of sugar into you. That's what the future is, sugar. Anyway.
Sugar. All right, so this is our sequel to our conversation with Brett Thomas on The Matrix. This is more of our usual style, fun, enthusiastic, intricate, detail-oriented investigation and conversation. So what did you think? Let's start with your notes, man. What did you see in this film?
It really seems, the more I look back on it, it seems like it's really 3 movies. It's almost like it could have been a trilogy and it got sent into 1 movie. The first one is like some kind of mind trip about like what's up with Neo, what's up with Mr. Anderson, and you don't really know what's going on yet, and there's lots of references to the Matrix, and it seems like he's been reinserted into the Matrix, and there's a mystery, and it's kind of trippy and it's interesting. And then the second one is like, I don't know, a heist movie where they have to put together a plan and go in and rescue Trinity. And then the third one's like a zombie movie where everyone turns into zombies and only a few people are truly alive. That's my overall take. Yeah, it's almost like they tried to do a whole trilogy in 1 movie.
That's actually really cool. And of course, they didn't. It was all in 1 movie.
Yeah, yeah. It means the prospects for sequels seem difficult.
Yeah. I really love this movie. I've seen it 5 times, and I've read pretty much any and every article I can get my hands on, and except for like the negative criticism. The negative criticism
yeah,
doesn't really resonate with me. There's a lot of cool angles I've seen recently to the effect that the depiction of most of the characters is depictions of the fans. So the guy who's into, he's the resident neologist. He's like the Matrix super fan who analyzes the trilogy.
Yeah.
Jude in the beginning, the handler, he's like the fan who didn't really get it, but thinks he did and thinks it's like profound, and yet is basically one of these red pill dudes complaining about not getting laid. And then let's see, there's Bugs. She's obviously a Matrix super fan because she can recite the film. You know, this is where Trinity kicks their ass, and this story is not quite the way that we expected it to be. And yeah, and there's so many really small details, like Anderson's Heart of the City Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
For those who like to eat shit, it says on the sign.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety in that. Neo created this modal, and it's like there's some subconscious part of him that knows exactly what's going on and resents it, and is like creating his own version of the Matrix to kind of move out of or through what's going on for him. So yeah, I like the idea of him combining Agent Smith and Morpheus. That was cool.
Yeah.
But let's get back to your notes. What have we not covered yet? What do you want to talk about here?
The movie works pretty well if you imagine that the analyst is right, and Thomas Anderson really is having a psychotic break.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You can watch the whole movie that way, and it plays as a sort of zany comedy, and it's actually pretty good.
Really?
Try it out.
Okay. What else, my man? You're the leader
I
on the
really
notes
like
this
the
time.
prismatic approach.
Explain.
The more perspectives, the better, even if they're not my own. I'm reading
Oh
your
yeah.
notes, man.
Oh. Oh.
No, back to my own. What do you make of the fact that this movie was so multicolored? It's so colorful compared to, like, I think The Matrix sort of ushered in the world of muted, muddy colors that we see in movies nowadays, except for this one. This one's suddenly it's almost as colorful as like a 90s action movie. What do you make of that?
Well, the previous Matrix trilogy was very this is another thing I saw recently, tangential to that, but the previous Matrix trilogy had a lot of clear distinctions around color. Blue is body, yellow is spirit, green is mind. And this had a lot more color saturation and variety of color. And in the end, when Trinity sees the code, I really wanted it to be gold code. And it's possible that that's kind of what's being implied by the having it happen at sunrise, because there is gold color around it. But upon further investigation and looking at another review, the code is actually white.
Oh,
which is the absence of color.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like she sees through to the essence of all forms of code, potentially. And then this review I saw said that she sees the breakdown of the distinction between the different forms of reality and not reality. Like, whereas Neo, it was really clear when he was looking at green code, it was really clear when he was looking at gold code. So for her, it's more evanescent, and she sees there's a breakdown between the reality versus unreality of the code itself.
It's interesting. It's interesting how a lot of the first, especially the two sequels in the first trilogy, created this sort of intricate Gnostic structure, basically, where there's like levels of reality, there's levels of code that you can map pretty cleanly onto, like, the demiurge and spirit and these things, and it's all quite structured, really. And in this one, it seems like a lot of that structure is sort of, I don't want to say gone, but it's certainly made a lot more complicated.
It's deconstructured. The binaries. So Neo, when he is making he's working on the video game for Warner Brothers or whatever, he's working on a project called Binary. And so binaries are themselves a product of the Matrix. And so part of the goal of this film is to break down binaries and to strip those away and to have it be less, I guess, divisive in that way. Because it's the dyad that actually breaks through the Matrix this time. It's Neo and Trinity, which it always was, but now it's even more clear.
It's like something about the fact that they're dissolving the boundaries between themselves that allows them to overcome.
Yeah. So
which is interesting. There's an interesting sort of there's an interesting relationship between this movie, I don't know, standard concepts about mental health. like that you should maintain
Uh-oh, we lost you. The machines are getting to you.
So yeah, I'm not quite sure what to make of that. I wonder if it makes me wonder, honestly, if Lana Wachowski had some issues with therapists.
Yeah, there was a great reading I found from Renegade Cut on YouTube that suggested that the experience that Thomas Anderson has is very similar to the experience that a lot of trans people have when they go to their therapists. The therapists kind of try to gaslight them, won't give them the appropriate medication, try to convince them that what they believe about their own experience of reality is false, and that on the other side, there's like they really have to fight to get free of the control and the encoding that's going on, something like that, and that it must have been very similar to what Lana Wachowski's experience was. And I think that's a sound reading. I think that's reasonable. I don't think it's the only reading. I don't think it's even the primary reading. If anything, it's kind of subtle. It's really subtle. It's not like pushy or showy. And then there's other suggestions that the analyst and Smith actually may be queer. The analyst, they're both played by openly gay actors.
Okay.
Number one, and number two, Jonathan Groff.
The analyst isn't a human.
Smith.
Smith
Well,
isn't a
yeah,
human
okay.
either. How can they
true.
be anything sexual?
I mean, Smith mentions our relationship to Neo. So there's a sense in which it may be read that way, but it's so subtle and potentially evasive that it may be present and may not. So
I was honestly surprised in a good way and pleased that there wasn't a lot of overt sort of modern sexual politics in this movie. You remember what my prediction for what the movie was going to be was? Do you remember that?
That it was just going to be about trans politics. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my prediction, and I was very, very happy that there was zero overt politics in it.
Yeah, everything done in this film is subtle.
I thought it was going to be a mix of that and Lana trying to reclaim the red pill metaphor from the political right.
I mean,
and I was pleased to see that I didn't, despite what our guest last time said, which would seem to be that, you know, the entire thing is the goal of humanity ought to be to destroy Republicans. I didn't actually see that in this movie.
I phrased that way. I didn't see that either. And wow, shots fired, huh, Richard?
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
We gotta tell it authentically as we see it, man.
We embrace multiple perspectives on Clever Orbits. Right.
Even multiple perspectives from the same person.
And apparently deep practice of diplomacy.
Yeah, diplomacy and tact.
Richard has been waiting weeks to speak these words that just came out of his mouth.
No. I thought it was more funny than anything. But I genuinely was concerned about the movie going in, that it was just going to be a big, I don't know, you certainly encountered these people on both the right and the left they're like online a lot. And their minds sort of contain nothing but these culture wars. You've run into these people, right? Yeah. It's like brain worms. That's an interesting term for this kind of thing.
It's like an earworm, yeah.
Yeah. It's like all they can think about is, you know, how do you own the other side? And unfortunately, based on her online presence, it looked to me like Lana Wachowski had fallen into that. And I was extremely pleased that the movie was not just that. If there was a political message here, it was indeed subtle, both in terms of subtle to detect, and the actual message is not just a straightforward, like one side is right kind of thing.
I would love more of my notes, please.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll just say some thoughts that I'm gonna be coming up with on my own, completely independently. Like
Okay.
this really, Lewis, this really reminds me of the EAN event that you threw, where it was
Okay, we already talked about this.
okay.
About this in the last podcast. Reader,
it,
we are
it,
listener. We're in a unique situation here where I can't look at screens after 8 p.m., but we're recording after 8 p.m. So, in an effort to not be sucked into the proverbial matrix, like that scene where Neo looks around and sees everybody in the elevator staring at their phones, we're looking to construct this in a different way. So,
yeah,
nice
yeah.
try with that one note. That was the one note you could not play off.
Reminds me of the EAN event that you held that I didn't go to and that I know very little about. Okay, let's see. I'll just go for the ones that seem interesting. Keanu more emotional than ever. What do you think?
Yes, he is. He has matured as an actor. One of my friends who we watched the Matrix trilogy with, he argues, there's more emotion in Keanu Reeves in those last scenes where Trinity dies than in the entire trilogy.
Huh.
And there's more. I'd say there's more emotion in these films, in him in these films than in the previous three. So
I saw this funny clip of when they were filming The Matrix Reloaded, where there's the scene in The Architect where he's on all the TV screens going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to film Keanu Reeves for each of those screens. And so there's a great, little clip of them filming him just, flipping out and getting angry, going crazy in different ways over and over again. It's good.
Oh,
I'll send it
yeah.
to you.
That's right.
Anyway,
I
he shows a lot of emotion on those screens.
He's pretty intense. Yeah, I think he expresses how fun that was for him at some point.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've seen the clip. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you call this a choice, question mark?
Oh man. Yeah, I love that so the whole film is about breaking down binaries. And there's a scene, right, where it's a theme that goes through the film, right, where it starts with Bugs, and Bugs is like, when somebody gave me these two pills, I went off on binaries and how it's stupid to reduce the universe to a simple binary conception of X and Y. And then later on, Morpheus, when he's taking Neo out of the Rapunzel Tower to go back and rescue Trinity, he says, "Yes, are you gonna demurely stay here and obey Niobe, or are you going to come with us to rescue Trinity?" Which, by the way, as I'm asking you this doesn't really sound like much of a choice for you, does it? And in that case, it was subtler than just like there's no such thing as a binary. It was like, you given a binary, that it's not really a choice. It's like breaking down the nature of choice, because if the choice is already chosen, is it a choice?
Yeah.
If the motivation is so strong that it's highly unlikely that you're going to choose the other thing, like, are you actually even making a choice in that moment?
Yeah. There's not a lot of information in the choice.
So what is choice is an interesting question from this. Like, is choice a situation where sufficient ambiguity is present that you experience feeling disconcerted about making the choice versus not?
I mean, it has to be any situation in which it's essentially you and not whatever situation you're in, which is to say the Matrix making the choice, right? If the Matrix is the system and the environment you find yourself in that constrains you, a true choice is anything you do that is not dictated by that. It's dictated by you rather than that. And then that raises the question of what are you? Like, is there some irreducible spiritual essence to you, which is not just, a product of some higher level matrix or something? It's an interesting question. It is an interesting question. And pursuing that will, lead to the dissolution of that binary.
What next, fearless leader?
We're not at all sure what's actually happening.
Yeah. So you're a fellow reader of Ubik, the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch and Volleys, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that first 40 minutes was as good as the best moments in Philip K. Dick novels where you are so profoundly confused and or disoriented and or hopelessly consigned to the vast waste bin of ineradicable uncertainty.
Huh?
That it's like there's no way of knowing. There's no way of finally knowing what's true and what's not. In fact, I've seen theories online that suggest that this was in fact a matrix within a matrix. Like the whole movie was actually a matrix within the analyst's matrix to connect Neo and Trinity in such a way that he could get more energy from them. In
Yeah.
fact, there's some evidence for this in that you see scenes just after he says, in every sim where we brought you two together, bad things happened.
Mhm.
You see scenes of them floating in like amniotic fluid connected by a bunch of wires and then yelling each other's names and then connecting and then like machines around them exploding in the same way that we see them do for the zombie movie portion of the film.
Yeah.
Right. So, or the runaway. So like this not only does that first 40 minutes give the most delicious, unsettling ambiguity of I'd say the entire Matrix franchise. But there's enough in terms of breadcrumbs throughout the rest of the film that if you wanted to take that tack, you could say we still don't know what actually happened.
That's interesting. And certainly if the analysts were smart, that's what he would do. Right.
Yeah.
His goal would be to figure out how to get them together in a way that is controllable.
And to harness their creativity probably beyond just their pure energy. I mean, there's ingenuity and skill and power there in between them.
You want another note?
Just assume that if there's a couple seconds of silence, that I'm waiting for another note. Yes.
All right, Anomalium.
Oh, what a great idea. What a stupid name, but what a great idea. I mean, it's one of those like obvious. So there are a couple obvious sci-fi names. Synthians, right?
Yeah.
Synthetic sentient beings. Okay, Lana, fine. I'll go with you on this. It's a sci-fi trilogy. It's like, what hasn't already been taken in the vast literature of science fiction? I mean, replicants, androids, robots, right? Synthians.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
They are kind of out of names for those things.
Yeah, I mean, but it was just creative enough to be interesting. And the Anomalium, I like this idea that the machines post Civil War, like they're just like harvesting anomalies or something. Yeah. And Neo was the anomaly of anomalies. That's an interesting idea. We still don't know a lot of what happened in these other anomalies. Did you know that there's supposed to be that there is literally on someone's LinkedIn profile who's apparently like a famous or semi-famous or successful like cartoon or animated creator, that there's gonna be an Animatrix 2.0.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
Yeah, I mean it's listed on this guy's LinkedIn profile, so unless he's just bullshitting us and or punking or trolling a lot of good people.
Yeah, well, that sounds cool.
Totally, man. So what
helicopter explosion again?
Oh yeah. Did you notice that the helicopter when it crashes into the side of the building, it has the same
wavy effect?
Yeah, like he's distorting the matrix. He's achieved a certain critical threshold amount of matrix distortion power.
There's also a reference to all the the shells from the bullets falling from the helicopter.
Yeah. So that actually adds an extra layer. Now that you're mentioning that, because we are watching a film. Who's to say that there isn't another layer to the Matrix where Neo isn't somehow watching this film that we're actually watching?
Uh-huh.
Because if the filmmaker is making a visual reference to that scene in the first film, then that's reminiscent to us. That gives us a hit of nostalgia, which is good on one level. On another level, like now that we know that any Matrix film could be something created by the Matrix, then what's to stop this film from actually being yet another more clever creation of the Matrix?
Oh, I think it must be.
Really?
It's the analyst.
You think he's that clever?
We're invited to believe he might be.
Yeah. So another like fuzzy ambiguity to play with there. And there are subtle differences between this film and the other ones. Did you notice that in the very beginning, the code doesn't just come down, but some of it comes up. And when it comes up, it's like golden characters as well when it hits the Resurrections title
I think
line.
I saw that. Yeah. It's good. We got some progress. Things are changing. It wasn't totally meaningless that, What do you think of the criticism that this movie makes the previous three meaningless?
I think it makes them more meaningful.
Yeah?
I think it makes them more interesting. It technically makes me, even though I haven't done it yet, because I think I need some time and distance, it makes me want to rewatch the first three films from the perspective of seeing them the way that Neo would in the fourth film. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Wachowski even has her villain, Neil Patrick Harris, as the analyst, explain this aesthetic choice. He created a matrix with more ugliness as a systematic tool to optimize efficiency. To the analyst, human suffering is so lucrative, we can no longer even witness a matrix that feels cool.
Oh yeah, that's from the article about the anti-aesthetic that Lana Wachowski develops.
Oh yeah,
what do you?
The text here is sort of it appears to be pasted in. So yeah,
that's someone else's. Richard, one of my favorite things about Clever Orbits is it allows me, the serious academic and scholar, to kind of moonlight for just a couple days. And I treat movie reviews and any scholarly articles or comments or viewpoints on a text in question as like secondary literature, and I explore that secondary literature. And ideally, I'd be coming to Clever Orbits with a full-blown written essay or thesis, but that would require way too much effort. So sometimes I just transplant secondary literature into the document and comment on it directly because it'd be fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Here's another note from you. Infinity Girl is hot.
Your Honor, I rest my case. No further comment. The one with the infinity braid, right? You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. There's no quarrel here. What's Ojaku? I don't think I remember this.
Oh, Ojaku is the mecha bird creature carrying the Sati program that arrives in Io, and Niobe stops and says, "Everybody, no, don't shoot. This is a friend of mine."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea that there are mech creatures that carry programs, and or are themselves synthients.
There was a lot of the machines were more organic in this movie. They were like flying around. They were like creatures. It was like Fern Gully.
What's Fern Gully?
You remember it's this cartoon about like magical creatures in the forest from the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And they like there's a lot of like magical bugs that fly around, and this movie was kind of like a Fern Gully Matrix crossover.
Well, they kind of started that in the third film when Neo gets to Machine City.
Yeah.
Where all these creepy crawly machines are like running are slowly walking up behind him as he's
Oh yeah.
moving through the city until he encounters Deus Ex Machina. So yeah, I like the idea. I legitimately, some people may be scared shitless of this, but I legitimately personally like the idea, so long as they're on our side in the way that they are in this film, of synthetic creatures of all levels of sentience and or expression, like within the full range of phyla, genus, kingdom currently available, except as analogs. Because we always think of artificial life as like, hey, it'll look like us, it'll sound like us, androids,
Yeah.
replicants, Data, Deckard.
Yeah. Data's just a kind of weird human, really. Yeah, he's
He
not
really is.
meaningfully different than a human.
Yeah. So, from this from the Matrix universe's perspective, the Luminate, the little bitty creature that hops around with like apparently a big spine, looks kind of like, I don't know, a machine lizard, maybe vaguely. Like, it apparently has sentience. And consider, I mean, then it becomes like Groot, I guess. I am Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh,
But yeah, I like the idea of machine life. It's interesting.
yeah. I thought the machine ecosystem that develops in this movie that they interact with is nice. And it's
That's
more
a-
realistic than the machines being an evil monolith.
That's a movie that I would watch, by the way. If
Yeah.
they would just tell the movie, if there would be no identifiable human characters,
Yeah.
which is what would make it cool. But like, to tell the story of the machine civil war and the different perspectives, like there's a whole vast civilization of machine intelligence and AI implied by moments like the analyst saying, the suits. I had to convince the suits.
Yeah.
So like, as if, and what that implies is that in the machine city, or the machine cities, actually, is what one of the characters says. When you flew to one of the machine cities, because there are multiple. By 60 years later, there's not just one. There's like all over the planet. I guess they're expanding. By that point, the machine civilization, the Matrix, is not even necessarily a high priority. Like, you get the sense that there was a politics that the analyst had to negotiate with in order to acquire enough resources and attention on his pet project of bringing this anomaly back. Do you get that?
Yeah. Is the Matrix is no longer like mission critical for them.
Well, that's questionable. Like, it's at least not the highest priority, for sure.
Yeah.
There's actually a Matrix short story where the machines take a man and train him to be a pilot inside of the Matrix, and then they plug him into an actual spaceship in the real world so that they can use his skills to have him use the ship to destroy some aliens that are about to destroy the whole machine civilization. So technically, Matrix canon has it that there are aliens in the Matrix universe. So there is something going on beyond the Matrix, to be sure. It's actually a really good story, because at the end of the story, he's like, "Well, are you going to bring me back?" And the machines are like, "No, we're going to leave you floating up there until you die." and he's like, "Well, fuck." And then they're like, "Well, here's what we'll do for you. We'll plug you back into the Matrix and we'll give you a beautiful life." And for the equivalent of an hour, but probably like through time dilation, like 2 decades or something, or whatever, he gets a beautiful life before he dies in Earth orbit.
That's kind of nice.
It is.
I mean, what else do you want, man?
Yeah, a good life. Yeah. What else do you want? To die in Earth orbit after sacrificing myself to save a machine civilization? Unbeknownst to me, there's a whole conversation to have about the machine, the Matrix extended lore. like the comics and the short stories, and we still haven't done the Animatrix. We should do the Animatrix next.
No, should check it out.
We should check it out. So yeah, machine civilization in the world of the Matrix, fascinating. And the analyst, there's been conversation around the idea that maybe the Oracle is actually still around. She's just been exiled. Maybe the architect was actually in exile as well. Maybe they just, like the Merovingian, went to the lower frequencies, quote unquote. Whatever those are.
That means that they became poor.
Well, so I read that the clothes that he's wearing, if you look closely, they're actually the same clothes he was wearing in Revolutions.
Oh, that's
except
fun.
like badly degraded over time.
Yeah.
So like his cufflinks, and he's like wearing that red shirt or something. Yeah, I like him popping in just to be like fucked up and weird for a couple minutes and then leave.
Yeah, it was a good little reference.
That was satisfying. And then the suggestion that because these are exiles that we've never seen Neo fight, which when Bugs or Infinity Girl says, "Oh my God, these are exiles," and Agent Smith says, "These are some people from your past," basically. So that all implies that Neo had adventures fighting these exiles in between the Matrix trilogy that we never saw.
Yeah. There's a whole universe that happened there.
I think the salience of a franchise becomes better, like the actual information density and the connections that get to be made between the pieces makes it a better thing. And the more that's implied and left unsaid or left uncommunicated and expressed for the viewer to try to tease together or puzzle through, the better.
Yeah. The things you imagine will be better than the real things, which is interesting.
Because it kind of invites the participation of the reader to take on the position of the author because of their desire for more content. But it isn't contaminated by the pure profit margin capitalist commodification of creativity that happens with films like these and franchises like these. So on some level, that there's so the guy who's the neologist, right? He's standing there, and he sees Agent Smith and Neo, and he's like, "I've got so many questions. There's so many theories, and they're just standing right there, like, like that's us. That's us." And I like how he doesn't get to ask the questions. I think there's like a tribute made to that kind of joy found in being a fan, especially given that he doesn't get his questions answered.
Well, maybe he got to ask after the movie was over.
Yeah, probably he did, but he didn't get to ask Smith unless they went back on a trip just to talk to Smith in the Matrix. Can you imagine how freakish it was for me to go back and rewatch the film? And I love that line from Smith. He says, you could have been anyone, but I was always already everyone. Like I was always already everyone. Like, and then you see that he's been embodying the body, or he's been incarnating in the body of that guy who says, "You let that freak flag fly," to Trinity about her choosing a different coffee. Yeah, it makes that guy just so much creepier. To think that Smith's been there the whole time.
It's interesting. What must the experience of an agent be when they basically are everyone?
Or when they are anyone, when they're like hiding out as someone or something.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
Let's see. I have moment of compassion. Free my beloved from the matrix through conscious relating.
Oh man, yeah, I really. So when I was watching the film after hanging out doing breath work, cacao, and giving a speech about my thoughts on the Matrix to like 20 people, I had Artemis sitting on my right and Alex
Mhm.
sitting on my left, and she introduced me to this most delicious popcorn.
Just like the Son and the Holy Spirit.
I guess. I mean, the closest thing in this metaphor would be Artemis as the father.
All right.
Me as the Son and her as the Holy Spirit, which implies a lot of interesting things about Jesus and the Holy Spirit.
Who proceedeth from the Father and the Son.
The filioque clause. All right, man.
Anyway,
cool.
Okay, now we got to get back to the Gnosticism, not the Christianity.
The Gnosticism. Thank you. So, I had a moment where I really, it was such a beautiful analog for relationship, because like for me, relationship is a vehicle for the attainment of higher frequencies and higher vibrations and deeper healing and deeper release of traumas and delusions. And the whole purpose is that each soul looks at the other and sees a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And one soul will occasionally see something in themselves quicker than the other, and be able to help awaken and or guide the other soul home, or support that person in realizing something that is delusory. For example, just before this call, I did a breakthrough process with my beloved, and there was something that I had uncovered in myself earlier this week that I had sort of gotten free from, or liberated myself from, with a breakthrough process. And then I was able to help her. So, Trinity is still in the matrix, and the whole idea of like me contributing to, or being a participant in her waking up, was really moving. And then there's that scene. So my moments of compassion were triplicate, where he's like wanting to wake her up, and like it's now time for me to believe in her, right? I never believed I was the one, but she believed in me. Now it's my turn to believe in her. Like that was awesome. That's the power of conscious relationship, is voting victory, is seeing the perfection of the soul in front of you, or the person, when they can't see it for themselves until they see it for themselves. So that was inspiring. The moment where they're reaching towards each other in Simulate, that was fucking awesome. Like, there's all these forces like holding them back. I mean, it was quintessential romantic, like Romeo and Juliet effect, where like the forces of animosity and adversity to someone's love for someone else heighten that love. It's like scarcity, right? The less available it actually is, the stronger it becomes.
Yeah.
And then the other moment of compassion for me was when Niobe is telling them, we're going to go on this mission, and everybody steps forward, and then the guy says, we trust you, whatever it is you want us to do, we'll do it. Like this purity and potency of solidarity between the captains of these ships and Niobe. Like they just love her and they just trust her. I thought that was beautiful. So there's a lot of the same themes that Cornel West and Ken Wilber talk about in especially the second and third film commentaries, about how it's not all just Neo doing this thing. It's not the classic monolithic, monotheistic myth of the one. He doesn't choose to sacrifice himself for everybody. He chooses love. He chooses Trinity. And that actually ends up deconstructing this Christian myth of the Messiah, and also creates a new modern Messiah for us all to kind of be inspired by, more so than having to choose the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one, or the needs of the few, right? So to speak. How about you? Were you moved by any parts of the film? Was there anything that got you in the feels?
it was sad, the scenes where Keanu's hanging out in the coffee shop and trying to talk to Trinity. That was, there was something relatable there, even though it's a very unusual situation.
Oh, you mean the one where he's like sitting there and he's eating noodles and she kind of walks by him?
Yeah. Oh, there's several scenes where they just have little conversations. And he says, like, they recognize each other, but they can't really place where.
Oh, those scenes. Yeah. Yeah. It was super revolutionary because like they love each other on some level, but they haven't recognized it fully yet.
Yeah.
And they're tortured by this awareness somewhere in their subconscious. They have that awareness. That's kind of beautiful as far as that. It's tragic and nobly beautiful in my mind. And it's like it's like a Gnosticism of love in this film. Like them recovering, both of them recovering the complete awareness of the true nature of the love they have for each other is what in some sense frees them from the matrix. Like he Neo is, well, yeah, it's his love that keeps him alive. His love for Trinity, just like Morpheus says when they're fighting. I know what has you keep fighting. I know what you still care about. It's Trinity, because he already did his adventure. He already did his hero's journey. He already changed the Matrix. Now the only thing that's still left is his personal desire to still be with Trinity.
Yeah, now is to retire with his wife, basically.
Yeah.
I already did the hero's journey, man. Just want to grill now.
Just let me go home. Yeah. So then let's see. Then for Trinity, her love for him in that moment on the top of the building is what awakens the powers in her to, I believe, so it kind of happens at the same time. Like they both get blown across the roof by the exploding helicopter. And then she stands up and she sees, oh, it's so beautiful. So she's starting to awaken. And it's right after she realizes, oh, I remember us. I remember this. I remember us. And they kiss. And so the love, the code of love, if you will, has reactivated in her. And then she flies. So there's something to that. Maybe the one protocol, maybe those cookies that the Oracle gave. I imagine she gave one to Trinity, but she definitely gave one to Neo. Maybe they awaken some kind of love protocol as well.
Interesting.
Like the Oracle told me that man would be the one that I end up loving. So yeah, something like that. What else you got?
Rain.
Oh yeah, there's rain. Which sounds a lot more profound when I say it that way, or a lot less profound than I actually intended with the film. So rain is a metaphor for the Matrix, and rain is throughout the film. We see rain. Well, actually, there weren't many scenes with actual rain, but there was rain when the what do you call it? The sprinklers come on. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was sort of like having him in the rain. Man, those scenes are some of my favorite scenes because
that was in the first third.
Yeah, and I agree with you that could have been its own film. That would have been a really interesting film. I would have watched that trilogy. I really like the idea of that trilogy.
Yeah, it was a cool scene. That was, so something this movie did really well that the previous ones didn't was, It's giving you the psychological sense of someone who thinks that this might actually be a hallucination, in the form of, the first third where Neo is not actually sure what's going on. He thinks it might actually be a psychotic break. And it does have a lot of the characteristics of such a break. And it's unsettling. It's like frightening to watch. And it's interesting that the original movies didn't have any of that. There's never a moment where Neo doubts the reality of what's going on. It's interesting.
He has a general sense, but it's not directly like it's not confronting or visceral in the way that these scenes
exactly.
are. Yeah.
I mean, he says like, you mean those are real? It's nothing that, like in this movie, it actually does connect with the experience that psychotic people actually do have.
Are you saying this from experience, Richard Futrell?
No.
Oh, good.
not first person experience.
Not first pro. Okay, yeah, great. So yeah, it's a really interesting form of like epistemological shattering that happens to him or that has happened to him, because there are shards of what he knows to be true that he's aware of and that are readily and immediately available to his stream of consciousness. But there are other parts of him that get continuously gaslit or reinterpreted by the analysts, and or which have reality, but don't have the level of reality that he suspects they do, like the Matrix trilogy. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I really appreciate it. That I don't think there's been that kind of a crystalline, shattering, scatteredness to someone's awareness or ability to grasp or characterize their experience upon a spectrum of possible layers or levels of real, like you get here.
Yeah.
If there's one thing this film does that nothing has ever done in the history of film, or I mean, I don't know, you with Ubik and with Three Stigmata, it was pretty close to this, but it wasn't spectral to where you could kind of analyze the different layers. It was just kind of like an overwhelming confusion at some point. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem there is Philip K. Dick actually was psychotic. And so, yeah.
Oh.
It's hard to coherently depict a nuanced view of losing your grip on reality when you are in fact losing your grip on reality. Right?
Well, I technically, you know what, to be really honest, to those books, I haven't read them in a long enough time that I have a vague point of reference and comparison. I don't have a strong, clear. Somebody should read those books and watch this film and talk about those too.
Some of them just straight up don't make any sense. So, yeah.
Really?
Not like Ubik and Three, like the good ones that you remember the names of are not those, but he wrote some other stuff, which is very clearly just like,
You know what? I remember buying you or getting a copy of the Exegesis. Did you ever read that?
No, but I still have it.
I challenge you. I challenge you to smoke a lot of weed.
Oh my God.
And read.
You're trying to unlock the schizophrenia.
So what you should do is take a week off from everything. Lock yourself in a closet.
Okay.
Trip balls. And when you're not tripping balls, smoke weed. Make sure you stay as much in a disjointed state as possible and read that book cover to cover. Do you take my challenge?
What's the upside here?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Okay,
Cancel clear. It's funny, and you might write some cool shit or have some really trippy experiences.
That's true. Yeah, it might result in some good writing.
I mean, like that sounds like the beginning of a really good sci-fi novel. Somebody holds themselves up in a closet to try to have a mystical experience, maybe through exposing themselves to the writings of someone who was alternatively psychotic and or enlightened, and does it through the use of sacred medicines.
Mm.
Sacred medicines, including Abilify. Oh God, this is terrible. I don't know why there's this like weird cruel streak in me. I just want there to be a movie or a book about someone who does what I'm talking about.
I mean, it is actually interesting to think about the extent to which the original Matrix is sort of the exact kind of narrative that you do see in people that, are unwell and actually have lost contact with reality. So like a common sort of theme that you see in schizophrenic delusions is that the person thinks they are cosmically important, and one emanation of this is paranoia. You think there's a big conspiracy out to get you, which implies you're very important, right?
Mm.
So thinking you are the one who's going to save the world when you're in fact just, some guy. It's a common, or thinking there's, some control room in the CIA is trying to get you, and if you just break in there, you're going to be able to control the entire world or something. It's interesting the extent to which the Matrix, a very popular movie, basically, treads this same narrative path.
Yeah, there's a whole fun, interesting conversation I'd love to have one day on the nature of schizophrenia. I mean, especially given someday, man, you and I ought to read Capitalism and Schizophrenia and just talk about it.
Oh, you know what's
'Cause
good? If you go on YouTube and look up interviews with schizophrenics and just watch these things, it's really interesting. There's one guy who's my favorite. I'll send him to you.
Yeah, please do. And thanks for the article on psychogenic death, even though I didn't read it.
Oh no, I didn't read it either. I just read the title.
That is enough, isn't it? People killing themselves through thinking about dying.
I mean, what else do you
Basically.
need to know? What else do you need to know? what is the content of the article going to be?
Some people kill themselves in this interesting way. Yeah. So what else we got? I got a full line of notes there, man.
You've covered quite a few of your notes in the
interesting.
process of doing other notes. So you fully covered all the moments of compassion when I cued you on just one of them. So let's see. Reflections, you talked about that. Subverts expectations.
Yeah,
Screen.
Reflections is an interesting thing. They're a big theme in this film because you see Morpheus looking at a mirror, you see Neo looking through a window, you see actually somebody did a lot in commentary about the reflection in the beginning, that the whole film is actually a reflection on the Matrix. It's like a reflection of the Matrix, because in the first film, you're looking at actual men breaking into this abandoned building, apartment or whatever to arrest Trinity. And this time the movie actually starts with the camera looking into the reflection of those men in water. And supposedly you can actually see a couple subtle streaks of Matrix code. So the article that I read said that implies that this is the modal, basically. It's a reflection of the Matrix as Neo has experienced it. And
Matrix Reflections.
Yeah, the Matrix Reflections.
Maybe they wanted to call it that, but then the studio said it doesn't sound very exciting.
Well, and they're bringing people back to life, so Resurrections is okay. Yeah, I could see that too.
Matrix Reflections sounds like it's like the director's commentary.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bunch of people sitting around like, oh yeah, I really like this scene. This is a really great scene.
Oh yeah, that was the day when the caterers were late. Remember that?
Yeah, we were all really hungry when we were filming the scene. And, that's what if I saw the Matrix Reflections like on sale, that's what I would have guessed it is. All right, let's see. So digital sentience, we talked about him. You call this a choice? We talked about it. Smith bust.
Oh yeah, in Agent Smith's office, there's a bust
I remember
of
that.
Smith,
Yeah.
from which is funny. Like knowing that that's actually Agent Smith with a bust of himself. He's really full of himself. But it's such a specific moment to choose. the moment when Neo hit me in the face right before he dissolved me and stopped my plan to take over the Matrix. Like, why would Agent Smith celebrate that by having a bust of himself from that moment in the trilogy? Or maybe it's ironic because he's like, ha ha, this was from that moment right before Neo, quote unquote, defeated me, but I'm
Yeah.
still here.
I would guess that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
And then-
no drama if one bodhisattva solves the great work for all of us.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that was kind of my initial reading of Neo integrating mind, body, and spirit in the first three films through that last moment where he surrenders to Smith. And he like dissolves into golden light, and white light comes out of him.
Mhm.
But there really is, I mean, it's true that even if Neo does the journey of a soul, the story of a soul, great book by Saint Therese of Lisieux, a mystic who I really resonated with in my youth. But he can't do the work for all of us. And even if he illustrates the path to enlightenment, Trinity still has to take it on her own in order to fully embody the grace, if you will, of the journey that Neo's already done. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the music.
Did you also love the music, or are you just reading?
I do too. Let's see.
I've listened to the whole soundtrack. I liked. Go ahead. Are you going to talk about the music? Because I got a lot. I mean,
No, I just enjoyed it.
The music in those scenes where, or the scene right before he enters the first portal with Bugs, that crescendo is one of the most beautiful pieces of music. I Fly or I Fall is the title of the track. And then how Trinity at the very end, when the music references the original film, when Neo sees the code and stops the bullets in that hallway, they use that same musical flourish when she flies. And God, I really love that moment too, because Neo is the least certain of himself that we've ever seen him. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, are you doing this? I'm not doing this. Are you doing this? It's like, and it's okay for Neo to be confused and vulnerable. I like that. Like some people, as what's his name says, Brett Thomas said that some people say they turn Neo into a pussy. A pussy can take a lot of a beating, and there's a lot more subtlety to it, emotionally and
Do you
physiologically.
want to extend that metaphor?
Maybe. I guess. Unclear. Probably not.
Okay.
Now that you've asked me to, there must be some reason why you asked me to, and I don't think it was because it was a good metaphor.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. This movie's a satisfying meal. It's fun, and it's also got stuff to think about.
It's got things
I don't have any
for us to
complaints.
reflect on.
I do have a complaint.
Yeah.
Like last time I talked about the plot being confusing, but who cares? I mean, really, who cares?
Yeah. So what I'm guessing we don't have anything else. We're gonna move to final thoughts.
Let's see. Check my notes, check your notes. I'm satisfied. Let's begin
I'm
the end.
satisfied too. All right. So I would give this a 9.8 out of 10. I think there are probably ways in which it could have been better. I haven't really fully articulated to myself those ways. I think it does great things with the intellectual property, with the characters, with the franchise. I think it adds layers to the previous films. But I think, I don't know, arguably, in the same way that the second and third film leave a lot of exploration on the table, I think the argument was very well made that this could have been a much larger affair and a much longer thing. And you know, I understand the circumstances. She was just grateful to be able to create one more film and wanted it to be as complete as possible. And it tells its own very intimate story of how she recovered from grief and brought these characters back to life. I mean, all of that, it's all fine. And it would be really cool if we just had another trilogy and the first one was just Neo not knowing if he's psychotic or not and experiencing anomalous things, given he's got powers over the world that he's in, but he's not sure that he's got those powers and that he's being reset. And actually, that's another thing worth mentioning. Neo actually resurrects several times in this film. He resurrects from the pod in the most obvious way, from the resurrection pod where he's been brought back to life physically, but also the analyst resets the Matrix after the scene where Morpheus and Smith sort of wake back up.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that was a cool scene.
Yeah. So that appears to be how he handles the anomaly throughout the this iteration. There's this suggestion that there's a the iterations happen every so often. He's on a treadmill, and
Stuck in a loop.
He's going to put you back on the treadmill. And interestingly, the treadmill, I guess the treadmill restarted at least once, because Neo was starting to see the truth. Boy, man, what a great film. What a great film. That first third, I have no complaints. And the more I think and talk about it, the more I just want to rewatch it, and I love it.
Nice.
The third part of the film is, if I had to rank the film, the first part would be the top, the third part would be the next, and then the middle part would be kind of the part where they left the most on the table, I think. Yeah. So 9.8.
Yeah, that sounds like a good rating. I'd say 9.5. Just
really,
yeah. Don't want to get too precise with the decimals, but yeah, there's stuff that could have been improved through more time, like more movies, or through focus, and some sort of knots that could have been untangled with more thought, such as the plot in the middle. But ultimately, I think those are very secondary things.
Indeed. Well, all right, my friend. This has been fun. I think we should do the Animatrix next. You down?
I'm not sure on what timeline, but
give it a month from now.
In the eventual future, yeah.
Okay. Totally, man. Last question. Did you get COVID, Dick?
No.
Thank all of the gods.
The opposite, in fact.
Oh, how hilarious and delightful and terrifying. All right. Well, that is it for Clever Orbits on the Matrix Resurrections.
Resurrected.
All right, brother. I'm just going to end it.
Good night.
Good night.